in 1953, I went down to the Bing Crosby tournament, and just to look around. I mean, I had I wasn't playing, in fact, I wasn't playing a whole lot of golf because I didn't have the money to do it, and I was trying to bring up my family or raise my family, and it got pretty tough for a while. But I happened to run into a fellow named Jackson Bradley down there at the Crosby, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, I'm really not playing much golf. And he said, well, you like your job? I said, no, I really don't like it. And he said, why don't you come to work for me? I'm the pro at Edgewater in Chicago. And he said, I got an opening as an assistant. And so I thought about it for about a week, and I said, well, I got to give this a try. But I had no real qualms about joining the tour. I wanted to go back there and really kind of learn how to be a club pro, really. And I went back there, and it was a wonderful job for two reasons. Number one, Chick Evans, who was one of the great guys of golf of all time, was a member at our club. And he was getting up there in age. He'd play 4 or 5 holes every morning, and he had his little dog walking around. He lived right on the course, and I'd get to play with him every morning. So that was a great experience. And the other thing was that, again, we were at a place that didn't have a driving range. So as an assistant, I didn't have to give many lessons, but I got to play every day. And I became a pretty good player. I was a pretty good player before that, but not. I stepped it up a notch when I was there at Edgewater, and I still didn't have any idea of going on the tour though. But I went back, qualified for the U.S. Open that year at Oakmont in 1953, and I qualified locally, and then I had to qualify again at Oakmont, and I made it both places, and I ended up finishing in the top 24. It was the first pro tournament I've ever played in, except for some pro-ams around Chicago.
You were playing as an amateur, right?
No, I was playing as a pro. I'd already turned pro. And so I finished in the top 24, and that enabled you to become exempt on the tour in the next year. But I couldn't carry it over. Like if I wanted to have stayed at Edgewater for another year and been an assistant, I would not have been exempt in 55. So I talked to the members, and they were pretty nice to me. They gave me some money to go out and play. And again, it was pretty hard when you have a wife and a couple of small kids. And but I decided I'd give it a try because of the fact that I never had to qualify out there. And I finished in the top 30 the first year, and I never did have to qualify for a tour tournament after that. Well, except for the Open, and of course then you got to play your way into the Masters. But I was very fortunate. That I've always said timing is everything in life, and my timing was pretty good in the golf, and through my entire golf career, really, everything happened at the right time for me, and I was very fortunate.
You won the PGA in '59.
Yeah, I won the PGA in '59, and it was funny. Ironically, I should have won the Open in '59. Casper beat me a shot, and then I shouldn't have won the PGA. Jerry Barber kind of gave it to me, bogeyed the last 2 holes, and I won. But again, timing. So a lot of people lose golf tournaments, and I've sure lost more tournaments that I've won. You always remember the ones you lose, but. I lost the Open a couple of times when I think I should have won it, but everything turned out great.
There's a story I've heard, I just want to see how you recall it, that involved Tony Lima and an out-of-bounds shot.
Yeah, that was quite a story. I think it was 1959 that Tony, I'd known Tony from the Bay Area before, and he was quite a bit younger than I was, but I still knew him, and he came out on the tour, and he was on a shoestring. I mean, we tried to help him, and I remember Suchak gave him his credit card to use, his gas card, and I let him drive my car for me. Tony was almost like a gopher for you, He'd take our clubs, and we'd try to fly or try and get another ride or something like that, or to save a little money. So Tony became a decent player, but he was having trouble out there. He wasn't winning a lot. He didn't win at all the first 3 years, and we were playing together in 1962 at the Orange County Open down at Mesa Verde, and we ended up going to the last round, and Tony was first and I was third, so we were paired together the last round, and he had a press conference the night before, with the media. There wasn't any television, but he had said, well, he said, you guys do a great job for the game, and he said, guys will buy you a beer if they win a tournament. He said, if I win tomorrow, I'm buying you champagne. Well, as it turned out, Tony and I played off. And on the first hole, it's par 5, I drove it right down the middle. He hit a big loop and hook that I thought was out of bounds. And he hit it provisional and in the right-hand rough and everything. So we went down, and his ball is inbounds about this far. So he hit it out in the right-hand rough. I hit it on the green in 2, and I 2-putted for birdie. He made about a 15-footer to keep it going. We both parred the next hole, and he made about a 30-footer at the third extra hole, and I missed from 10 feet, and it was over. And Tony became Champagne Tony Lima after that. And of course, he became a great player. He won the British Open, and Tony would have won a lot of tournaments if he hadn't died in an early age. But Tony and I were good friends. And I guess it was, well, that was 62. I guess that'd be almost 30 years later. I was doing a television in Chicago at the Western Open, and this fella came up to me, and he said, Mr. Rosburg, he said, I'm so-and-so. He said, I wonder if you remembered the 1962 Orange County Open. When you played off with Lima, I said, oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. And he said, well, I was there with some Marine buddies of mine. I was at Camp Pendleton, and we're walking around there. We'd had a few beers, and Tony was an ex-Marine, and that drive he hit at the first hole of the playoff was out of bounds. So we kicked it back in. So I kind of laughed. I said, well, at the time, it would have been nice to win, but I think there was only a $500 difference between winning and finishing second. But I had to say something to this guy, and I made the remark. I said, well, I said, I don't regret anything that Tony did after that. I said, it was wonderful. He was a good friend of mine. I said, but he told me before the last round when we were playing together, he said, Bob, he said, if I don't win here, he says, I'm quitting. I'm taking a club job. He said, I just can't make it out here. And I said to this fella, I said, if you hadn't kicked his ball back in, he'd probably still be alive. I just walked away. And it was kind of a cruel thing to say, but it was the truth. Yeah. Tony died at a very young age. He died when he was 35 or 6, just at the prime of his career.
Yeah, those small planes have killed a lot of people.
They really did in those days, and
musicians and flying.
They were flying them over to do a little thing after the PGA Championship in Akron. They were going to Chicago, and the gal who was piloting the plane forgot to change engines, and the plane ran out of gas and crashed on the golf course where he was going to play the next day.